the band.
Just got a little bit of more time and we'll call the meeting to order. All right, it's 10 a.m. and appreciate everybody's attendance this morning. Glad to have you with us. This is the business meeting with the Georgetown Scott County Revenue Commission. It is Wednesday, March 27th, and we'll officially call this meeting to order. With that said, we'll call the roll, and we have Mayor Jenkins.
Here.
And we have Gina Amos, present as a proxy for Superintendent Billy Parker.
Yes, sir.
So with that said, let the record reflect that those individuals and myself were present. And we will move forward with number 3, approval of minutes from last meeting, 2/21/24. Any questions or comments related to those meeting minutes as presented?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion, and we have a second. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. And that will lead us up to number 4, Georgetown Scott County Revenue Commission restructure discussion and request for approval. Scott?
Thank you, Judge. Yes, Jessica has a new opportunity. She's going to be taking on a director's role at Lexington Fayette Urban County Government Health Department. So we're excited for her new opportunity, but very sad to see her go. Her work here has been stellar, to say the least. And so this is creating an opportunity here for perhaps doing some overdue restructuring. What we've talked about is posting a general counsel position only, spinning the assistant director portion of Jessica's role off into a new role, which would be an assistant director / IT coordinator. And let me thank Megan and Jeff Mudrack for both helping me with job descriptions on that. Also, my colleague at Louisville Metro, she has an assistant director as well, so she helped me with some of the language from their job description as well. So I have 2 job descriptions. I sent them out this morning. I was finalizing the assistant director one this morning. So this is the only action item really for this meeting. It's a little bit different than other meetings. We don't really have any other action items. Everything else will be general discussion. But what I wanted to talk about here in number 4 was requesting approval to post a general counsel only position with the job description that was sent, and an assistant director / IT coordinator. And we do have an internal candidate for that who's very well suited. He's John Higgins, one of our tax compliance analysts. He has a tremendous IT skills and a lot of management experience as well, as a bachelor's degree in business. So he would be the ideal candidate to promote up and step into that role. There'll be some more details to work out on that in terms of the accounts he currently has assigned. And, so there may be some additional restructuring down the road, but the main 2 things is to get another general counsel position posted and get that process in the works as soon as possible. And that's my proposal structurally at this point, due to Jessica's departure. And I'd be anxious to hear any of the commissioners' questions or concerns or comments on that.
Well, let me comment. First and foremost, thanks to Jessica, and best of luck and best of wishes. Her work has been just stellar, and appreciate her efforts and wish her nothing but the best. But I think what her work has demonstrated is that the need for someone's focus the general counsel focus to be on collections and then other legal matters that arise. I think it's very evident that that's the fact. And, I would certainly support, after talking with you last week, support this. And then, the IT assistant director, I've read that description as well, and it seems, to mesh together. Of course, we'll have to post these positions. Your plan would be to post these positions and then, have a committee do some interviews and then make a recommendation back to the Revenue Commission. Is that correct, Scott?
Yes, I'm not sure, since it would be an internal promotion, do we have to promote the assistant director, or is that because it's a new position, would we be required to do that?
If it's an internal promotion, because we aren't technically a city or a county and we have no procedures, you could do an internal promotion without posting, the same way that they did that with me for the general counsel position. Once that was decided, that wasn't posted either. It was an internal promotion because we are not a city or a county. We go by internal procedures. And since we don't have those, the way that it was told to us when we did that was that you could make that decision with commission approval. And as long as that layer of approval existed, that we would be fine.
Thank you, Jessica. Mayor Jenkins, Gina, comments, questions related to the proposed postings and changes?
Well, I don't have any concerns. If we're going to promote this, I always think if we got qualified people within our ranks, I think it's good that we do that because especially if they've been working extremely hard in their position and has actually proven themselves to be a qualified person, I think we need to reward that person by giving them that opportunity. So I would have no issues with the recommendations of going in, having a promotion from within to the IT position, and actually posting the position for the general counsel.
Yeah, and I'll just add at this point too that we're really moving forward with modernization and technological advances. So the IT coordinator portion of this, as we talked about, judges, is going to be very critical as we continue to move. In some cases rapidly, depending on the vendor. In some cases more slowly than we would like. But as we continue to move toward that, that's going to be something that's going to be very mission critical to our continued success. Not to mention the concerns about cybersecurity and things of that nature. And I've a lot of that I've been handling as well. So it'll be nice to have an extra set of hands in an assistant director, IT coordinator position to help speed those things along. Plus, like I said, John just has amazing tech skills, and he'll slide right into a lot of the things Jessica had been handling, even with he's already been working with our database developer for FileMaker, our tax software, and we should be able to, slide him into a lot of those fairly quickly. I already discussed with Jessica this morning a handoff on some of those pending tech items with numerous vendors we're exploring. So at this point, if there's no other questions about the to making the move, I guess the next question, Judge, would be discussion of the pay.
No, that would have to be certainly have to be a consideration. I was trying to look on the descriptions if there was and I know I saw it, just a pay range for the two. Is that anywhere on that?
The salary at the top was just TBD, to be determined.
Okay.
I think, like we discussed, to get an attorney and someone, hopefully what we're looking for is someone with collections experience. And there are a lot of attorneys out there that do have that skill set. I was thinking for the general counsel, the range would be 105 to 110. And as far as the assistant director, IT coordinator, that range would be more like 80 to 90 to start.
What looking at the position, having that range 80 to 90, certainly, sounds like it would fall within a comparable position for, assistant director, for different agencies that we both have, and perhaps I can't speak about the school system, but it certainly seems like in a range, and having that IT component to the position also would require additional skills in that as well that would support that range.
Well, what Jeff shared with me, your IT coordinator with the county is more in the 60 to 80 range, but that's with no assistant director duties. That's just strictly the IT coordinator.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. That with the IT coordinator responsibilities on there, what you're saying merits that range.
Yeah. Okay.
My question is to the other commissioners and Gina is, do we want to make a recommendation today? I think Scott's recommendation is to promote Mr. Higgins into this position. And that question is then what are we going to offer as compensation for that? Any comments on that?
Yeah, so let me make sure I understand. So we're promoting Mr. Higgins to that position, and the pay range is, what would you say again, Scott? What was it?
80 to 90. My recommendation would be 80. And then
Okay.
the general counsel, the pay range for that position would be 105 to 110, and make that 105.
Did you get this information just based upon, did you check with other agencies or check with other governing bodies to see exactly what would you pay a IT person and a person assistant director? Did you just combine that together, or did you
Well,
find
Megan shared with me your IT liaison, which is Sarah. That's a little bit different than the
Right.
IT coordinator. So Jeff's the IT coordinator the county has, their pay range is 60 to 80 just for the IT coordinator component. But since this is a combined AD
Right.
IT coordinator, that's where I came up with the 60
Okay.
or excuse me, the 80 to 90. But that was based on the county's IT coordinator.
Okay.
The assistant director, that varies depending on the size of the jurisdiction, but some of them are in that range. Certainly Louisville Metro, where I got the job description for the assistant director language. I mean, obviously they're at their level, it's well over 100,000, but that's
Right.
the city
Right.
and community.
Okay.
The state.
I don't know if this is a relevant portion of the conversation, but when I was the assistant director and a compliance attorney as a licensed member of the Kentucky Bar, my pay was 85. And that's what this commission approved for that position. So that's obviously a factor as well. I mean, that was just last year that was approved. I think that is a relevant factor for looking at what other staff currently pay, compression issues that might result from that. Obviously, my pay is not going to be relevant, but I think that's a pretty telling measurement there.
So Scott, your recommendation, thank you, Jessica. Your recommendation is 80 for your assistant director and IT director, IT coordinator. And then we will post the position of general counsel with a range. Can you share that range one more time?
105 to 110.
Okay. So I think if we want to move forward, we need two motions. We need one motion to approve the recommendation to hire Mr. Higgins as assistant director and IT coordinator at $80,000 a year annually, if that's the recommendation. And then the second motion we would need is to create the position of general counsel and post that position to take applications. Does everybody agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Yep. So I make a motion that for the assistant director and IT specialist for the Georgetown Scott County Revenue Commission, the range will be from 80 to 90. Is that correct, Scott?
Yes.
Okay, so I make a motion that we accept that that proposal and move forward with it.
But Mayor, I would ask you to consider amending your motion to specifically state that
Okay.
80,000 for the pay rate for Mr. Higgins.
Okay, so I'll amend my excuse me. I'll amend my motion to recommend that we accept the proposal made by Scott to hire the excuse me, the IT and assistant director at $80,000 annual salary.
Thank you. Would there be a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Bless you, Mayor.
All right, my allergies is acting up.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we've got a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. And then we'd need a second motion to create the position of general counsel as described in the job description shared with a pay range that was shared as well.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. So I believe that concludes the restructure discussion and the request for approval. Is that correct, Scott?
Yes. Thank you all very much.
And then we'll go to general discussion with you, Scott.
Okay. Can everyone see the general discussion for 327?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right. So the first item here is the Cabinet for Economic Development reports. See if I can find this one here. There it is. Everyone see that?
Mhm.
So we only have two that happened in February. They both received final approval on the 7th of February. Neither one of these are a KBI, anything that affects our payroll inducements. These are just grants and aid. That's what GIA stands for. Bluegrass Training Consortium, Kentucky Alliance Training Consortium. These training consortiums are very common, especially with areas with high industrial base, manufacturing base. So there's several of these, and they get these $75,000 incentives to help keep our workforce trained for our employers that need these highly skilled employees. So that's all that we had for February was those two grants in aid that were awarded to these two consortiums. Any question on these?
No questions from me.
Right. So, operator error. Okay, and our KJRA inducement payment for January, as I mentioned in the email last week about the disbursements, the distributions to the jurisdictions, January 2024, this is the last payment of the fiscal year to this employer. This is where they reach the $1.2 million cap for the city and the $1.2 million cap for the county. So we have not made a payment this month for February because there will be no February or March payment. And in May, we'll resume when their new fiscal year starts in April. We'll start with that back up again. But they will continue the next 2 months to issue these reports just showing that the cap has been reached. So same thing happens, just a different year. Any questions on that?
No.
No questions from me.
All right. This is just bullet point number 3 is just a verbal update here. We did complete successfully the VoIP cutover. That project's complete. We have our new phones on the desk. The old phones are gone. So that was a long time coming. Mayor, I wanted to let you know that our VoIP vendor was very appreciative of Sarah's help on that. You know, the delay was due to Spectrum, but he said she was a big help. I've thanked Sarah as well, but she was a part of helping us get that completed. So I just wanted to pass that on to you, and we're glad that's the case. And that was James from 13 Layers, Judge, who you may know.
Yes.
So that's just an update there. This fourth bullet point, I didn't really word this properly. The temp analyst was in the mid-year budget adjustment we did, which took effect January 1. We brought that person in just because we were so behind after the waiver window to help with our W-2 reconciliations. We have in the past couple of weeks added a temp admin to come and help us with this April 15th. With the growth we've had, we could really use an extra set of hands during our busiest time, the April 15th tax filing deadline, and we'll account for that in the new budget proposal we'll be talking about over the next couple of months. So that's just a verbal update, more to come on that. But the temp analyst, we didn't just add them, we added them back at the beginning of the year when we did the mid-year budget adjustment, which kind of feeds into the next one, the 2025 budget. I've already initiated preparations for that, and I'm pulling that information together. Should have a preliminary for next month, and then perhaps we can have that ironed out and finished by May or June for the final budget. We did have an in-person meeting scheduled last month in February the 23rd. Unfortunately, Bourbon County had to cancel that due to a death in the family from one of their attendees. So we have rescheduled that, and Judge, I put you and Michelle down as optional on that if you're able to attend. It'll be a week from this Friday, April 5th at 2:30 in the afternoon. And I think they've all accepted. I think the county judge is coming, deputy county judge, their tax administrator, and an HR director. I'm not sure, the county attorney might have been a tentative, but I believe most of them have responded in some way. That's a Friday that worked really well for them. Kentucky League of Cities approached me a couple of months ago. They were getting a lot of feedback from other cities that they really needed help with occupational tax, and they didn't feel like they're really collecting, kind of like Bourbon County reaching out to us. A lot of cities are doing the same thing. And Morgan Patterson, the director of legal affairs there, told them, I think I know a guy. And she called me. So they have asked me to, I don't know if it's going to be a presentation or I'm going to teach a class, but that's all yet to be determined. The working title is called Investing in Revenue. And I'll be sharing a lot of the successes that we've had in our strategic plan, things of that nature. But that'll be in the fall. They're going to be in their fall conference is going to be in Lexington again this year. So it'll be sometime the latter part of September. So it's nice to be asked to participate in those things. And of course, I'll share what I put together with you all in advance of that. Okay, this is, I did this, I think the last year, maybe the last 2 years, a breakdown of the 1,398 new accounts. Tammy put this information together for us, and it was attached to this morning's email I sent you. And so what you have is two columns. Now we wound up with 1,406. So I don't know how we wound up with 6 or 8 more than we originally calculated, but that might have just been a reporting issue. But you've got the business name on the left, and then you've got a business description. I've alpha sorted these for you so you can see it starts with, accountant, administrative, Airbnb, automotive, bookkeeping, just a lot of cleaning services, a lot of coaching, a lot of commercial rentals, a lot of construction. So just kind of give you a sense of what that 1,398, what that number is made up of. So I've had Tammy prepare this for you before. I think you found it valuable, so I wanted to share it with you again. Give you a sense, and in an Excel spreadsheet form, so you can kind of sort it and filter it and do whatever you want to with it. But that's a pretty good sense of who these businesses are and what kind of business sectors they're in. Any questions or comments about that?
No, not for me.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses, a lot of lawn care, painting, pest control, plumbing. Okay. I'm sorry.
Scott, if a business wants to communicate that they are no longer in operation, is there just a simple form they fill out and send to you?
Yeah, sometimes they send a letter. Normally what they'll do, if they ceased operation, for example, in 2023, sometime during that year, anytime from January 1 to 12/31, what should happen is they should file a final net profit return with us, and there's a box for them to check that this is the final return. And it may just be a part year return. If the business isn't doing well, a lot of times it's a loss anyway. They don't owe us any money. But yes, by April 15th of this year, we would expect to see a net profit. If it's an older account and they haven't filed a number of years, they may have said, "Oh, sorry, we closed back in 2019. We just never told you." So that's pretty common too.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the new accounts breakdown? Hearing none, we'll go to the individual compliance collections data by team members. So this is something new, and I'm going to start doing this every month because it's a really good snapshot, high-level snapshot. And these are compliance collections, not just a normal tax return that comes in the mail. These are taxpayers that we had to pursue because they were non-compliant for a variety of reasons. And everybody tracks that. So you can see Tammy, our senior auditor, had over $10,000 for the month of February. That's 76% of that was withholding. John Higgins, our tax compliance analyst, over $19,000, 81% of that was net profit collection. Denny Rice, another one of our tax compliance analysts, was $10,000. 60% of that is net profit. And then Jessica, of course, in her general counsel assistant director role, $93,000. 60% of that was net profit for a total team collections of $134,000. So that's an outstanding month. It just shows, how important it is to have these folks in these roles pursuing these non-compliant accounts. Also, most of them track the reason I know the percentages here on net profit and payroll, I can go deeper if you want. I'm always kind of torn to keeping it high level executive summary and not getting too far down in the weeds. But for example, on Tammy's, I could break it down to how much is tax, how much is net profit penalty, how much is net profit interest, how much of it is withholding tax, payroll tax, how much of it's withholding penalty, how much of it's interest. So, this is a living report. If there's something more detail you want to see, less detail you want to see on any of these reports, just let me know. But I thought that was a good monthly snapshot, and I will continue to do these every month.
Much appreciated.
Any questions on that?
No.
All right. Waiver window project review, collections and costs. Actually, it's going to be more cost than collection, but we'll go through that here. Sorry. No, that's not it. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay. So we weren't, with the way our tax system is right now, we weren't really able to isolate how much of the collections were in a meaningful way. We could have given you a number, but it probably would have been wildly inaccurate, and we don't want to give you inaccurate information. But we are talking with Database Services, our MSP for our tax software, and we're working on ways to, if we do something like this again, or really any project, a better way to flag these so that we can have a better sense of how much money was brought in. I mean, we had a good, obviously, last quarter of 2023, but it's just hard to nail it down. But what we could give you really good numbers on was the cost associated with that. So there were 2,665 accounts were on the list. 650 of those bounced back, and Pam had to research new addresses for all those. So we had 7 boxes of envelopes. There's the cost there. 7 reams of paper. Postage was $22.05, and then I calculate. There were some of the employees took some of. There was such an influx, such a huge volume. Some folks were working them from home at night and on the weekends, and those hours were calculated. Pam, 80 hours is what I calculated. It was probably more than that, but that's her best estimate, and I calculated that. So the total cost associated with executing the waiver window project was $5,500.
And Scott, I don't want to interrupt. I would just say that this is, when we did the data, this were the accounts that were not in legal. So during that review of our 9,500 accounts that I did, I pulled over 1,000 to legal. So the notices that were sent to the legal accounts, because they're more complicated and take more time to review, that's not included in this total. So I think that's an important part to discuss, that because those letters trickled out for months. So usually, I think it was about a 2.5 month period it took me to get through those 1,000 accounts that were referred to me, including closing 500 of those. So that's also, those letters were sent out too, but because of the staggered nature of it, they're not in this total that you have here. So I just wanted to say that, because I think it's an important component in terms of the actual number of letters that went out as a result, and sort of the work that took place there.
Yes, thank you for adding that. That's true. And also, Jessica put together these numbers at the bottom. I mean, we're thinking the work has paid off. There, you just look at the compliance rate. It's currently sitting at 58.22%. So that's a little bit of an improvement, and it's because we were able to resolve so many accounts, whether they were closed or administratively made inactive for a variety of reasons. So it wound up being a tremendous cleanup project and a lot of value, even though we can't definitively say, well, we collected an extra $10,000. So, but we hope to be able to have more definitive collections data in future when we do projects like this, or maybe if we do this one somewhere down the road again too. So Jessica's point is spot on and correct, and she added these account numbers down here at the bottom. So,
so Scott, I'm trying to find where you forwarded this file. I'm on the email from this morning, but I've also looked at the previous email you sent with the agenda. Did you forward this document?
Let me see. I believe it was.
It's on the email from this morning. It's listed as waiver window project review, the attachment.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry.
I got you.
It was not on last week's. It was the one this morning.
Yes. So one of the things that, I think you all had shared data with me previously about the work to reconcile, the non-compliant accounts, and we talked about a possible, listing and trying to get all that together to share, because there was data shared, that reflected, a percentage of accounts that were non-compliant or and you're just not paying. And what Jessica just mentioned sounds like to me, if we could wrap all those numbers into one.
I think Scott, is that going to be what you present next? Or are you going to, I think we have an update, Judge. I don't know if it's going to address exactly what you're talking about, but I was going to present that new compliance information that we shared with you, that would go over the percentages of non-compliant versus compliant after the waiver window. Is that what you were meaning?
Yes, ma'am, 100%. And I just wanted to be able to show what you have, what's been done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's next.
Okay, I'll stop talking and let you all continue.
No, I didn't mean to. I thought that might be what you were going to talk about, and I knew Scott had asked me to present on that, so I figured that it would be after this information.
Yeah, go ahead, Jessica.
So I don't know if you want to pull that spreadsheet up, Scott, or if you want me to, but the one with I don't know if you share. I don't think it was in the email, but it's the one that I can share it if you want me to do that, but it's the one that was the data as of 2/22. I'll email it to you right now if you want to pull it up,
Yeah,
or I can screenshot it. Here you go, Scott. I just sent it to you.
got it.
But essentially, as Scott has said, this was the component. So I ran a report of every account in FileMaker, and I went through and sorted it, and based on the account status, I handed off a bulk of it to do a mail merge that staff handled. And then in the process of that review, as I said, I pulled over 1,055, you can see 1,055 accounts to legal for a more in-depth review because of the severity of the delinquency, to put it lightly. And so the staff sent out the numbers that Scott just showed you. What I personally sent out was the 1,055. So I went through all of those accounts, some of them with very aged balances. And ultimately what ended up happening is that I closed or administratively inactivated, which means there was no established balance and we had no address or forwarding information to be able to continue to pursue that to where it's efficient for us. But should they ever need something like a permit or they come in with a new account, we can pursue them. So with those options, I cleared out 590 accounts that were previously on our delinquency roster. So that changed the compliance numbers significantly. So when we look at that and we take into account all of the work that occurred in the months of, August through December, actually through January, really, our compliance number shows that those efforts did work. So when we look at our total number of accounts and we break down, you can see that as of the 24th of January, because again, this is always, older data, but as of that date, we had 9,245 accounts. Of those, 5,382 were current and 3,863 were delinquent, which means that our compliance rate went from approximately, at the time, it was 49% compliant when we presented that information to the council, to 58.22% compliant. So in the span of those 4 months, with that huge account sweep, as well as the annual net profit reviews that are occurring from all of our staff and my quarterly reviews of my accounts, as well as the getting rid of that bulk of those 590 accounts that were no longer active, our numbers show that all of that led to an increase of approximately 10% in compliance. So we consider it successful. On average, each month since that project began, my numbers have been at least 70,000 a month that I've collected from those. So it's gotten the numbers up as well as we've collected that revenue. So I think it was a success. It was a tremendous effort that took weeks and weeks for all of us to kind of take part in and do our individual pieces. But I think a 10% compliance jump in 3 months is very significant.
And that's something I think that would be great to share with, fiscal court members that have asked questions, and probably city council. I'll let Mayor Jenkins speak to that. But you have another sheet there that's account cleanup stats. Is that?
Yeah, so those are the ones that we either closed. So when we closed an account, what that means, just for like clarification, I don't want to get too in the weeds, but I think this is important. A closed account means there was resolution. So we will not ever be pursuing that account for the issue. So that means they either paid, taxpayer was deceased, something like that. Administratively inactivated means we no longer have viable information through any of our portals where we get that information to pursue that. There's no balance due, so we can't civilly collect it. It's just an account that was opened with no balance due, and we can't get a hold of the taxpayer. So that shows you those two numbers. Both of those obviously require a lot of review. The only person in our office that administratively inactivates accounts is my role. So all of those were accounts that I had to go through and determine what the situation was. A lot of them, to be completely honest, were just account cleanup that needed to happen in the last set of letter blocks that I hadn't reviewed. So as of the time of this, Scott and I have talked about it, as of the time of this report, I have literally reviewed all 9,200 of our accounts. So there shouldn't be any more of those pockets of data that kind of are going to spike the numbers. They've all been thoroughly reviewed, and that in and of itself was a tremendous relief, because those accounts are no longer active in terms of file storage, active in terms of the annual net profit review. We deemed those to be just no longer worth the pursuit of staff time. So that's the difference in those two numbers. And of course, those feed into our overall report as well.
So Jessica, thank you very much for that. Would it be possible for you to forward those, that spreadsheet and give us just a short narrative about the explanation about the work that's gone on since over the last 3 months or more, just a short narrative, and then really say here are the next steps that need to continue, what needs to continue to happen.
Yeah, I can do that, or Scott and I can get together and do that. The comparison here of the 124 and the 811, the numbers, speak volumes as well, but I can put together a short narrative on what I think the best next steps are. I mean, the great thing is that, in the time that I've been here, we have a system, we're working it. It's successful, as you can see. Most months I collect 70 to 90,000, if not more, on these delinquent accounts. So the system works. It's just getting someone in place with the knowledge and skill set to keep the system going. And that's aware of, the efforts that go into getting these numbers to be where they are. And as you all know, I've spent the last 6 years doing that. So the framework exists. That's the great thing. It's just, not letting a big gap occur between, my departure and someone coming on board, because every month I run reports that ensure that these compliance numbers increase, that ensure that revenue continues to come in. It definitely happens because of a lot of effort, both on myself, on the staff, on the notices that go out, on the calls that we take, on the taxpayer meetings that we set up. And I think you can see here that effort, it does lead to success. That's why the numbers are where they are.
Well, I appreciate it very much. And yes, I agree. And that's something I would, that those two sheets and a short narrative is something I would like to share with the magistrates via email.
I will get with Scott and we will put something together, and I'll hand my portion over to him and he can send that over.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. That will be very beneficial, especially, since y'all came and did a presentation with City Council back in the fall, and now we can show the difference of the hard work that has gone in and show the difference from coming with 41% compliance to 58%. So that is a game changer for us. Thanks.
Okay, the next item here is you had asked for some information, and Tammy put it together rather quickly. We were going to talk about it at this meeting, but it actually, a few days after we met last month, we got it together. I just wanted to bring this up. This was the body of the email. The question was, because we were down $1 million because of the third-party payroll provider, their consistency with filing, what would it have looked like if that payroll was in there? So we put that together for you. And so this is the most recent example of these inconsistent filings was January. So what happened in January, we did not get a payroll return and an accompanying payment, but then in February we got two, and we're going to go over those numbers in a minute. But this is what it would have looked like with that payroll in there, and then what our adjusted in the quarterly numbers, what our numbers would look like. We would have been up about 6.4 million had we gotten that in January. So I just wanted to, and I put the city county school splits in there. I didn't hear back, so I'm assuming that answered your question. I just wanted to bring it up today in case there were any lingering questions about that.
No, much appreciated.
Okay. All right, so the monthly collection stats, as we just talked about, they were up over $2 million for February because we got two payroll payments in. Instead of one in January and one in February, we got two in February. So that was an overall collections increase of 60%. You can see the city, county, and school splits. The February city was up 917,000 over February 2023. The county was up 938,000 over February 2023, and the school board was up 232,000. So that is those are the monthly figures for February, and then this is the one we always like to see. So this is the quarterly impact of that. So when we put the February numbers in for the third quarter, we're up $1 million with 1 month left to go in this third quarter of the fiscal year. And that puts us right now at about 6.9 million over this same period last year. And keep in mind the email I sent out, I believe it was last week with the distributions or the week before, that 1.9 million net profit payment from one company, that is not included in these numbers because we got that in March. So this is just as of the end of February. So that'll be added in with the March numbers. As it currently stands, the city's collections are up 2.9 million over last year. County's up 2.7, and even the school board's up 1.3 million. So if this trend continues over the next 4 months, the remaining 4 months of this fiscal year, it's quite possible we could exceed $60 million in aggregate collections this year, which would be another record. And that's due to the work of Jessica and the staff, everybody here, the team, all the efforts we were just talking about contributes to this greatly.
Thank you. And that's very helpful information. And, I know right now we're compiling budget requests and trying to make, plans for next year's budget and looking at, requests, but, the revenue that supports it is the most important thing. And obviously we'll be, very curious to see the March numbers and how the third quarter, rounds out. And it gives you a pretty good idea that, unless something falls off the face of the earth in that last quarter, we're going to be pretty strong, as you have shared.
Yes. Any other questions on the quarterly stats?
No, thank you.
Nope.
All right. So then on the general discussion, the last thing is I always update the February numbers. So we had 96 new accounts, 66 closed. That compares to 145 and 50 in February last year. So we're currently at 186 new accounts and 155 closed. Of course, some of those are from Jessica's account cleanup efforts. So we're averaging so far the first 2 months, 93 new businesses a month and 78 closed. I did update all of these numbers, and the number Jessica gave, this number has been updated as well. So getting close to 10,000 open and active accounts. And that's the data on the new and closed accounts for the month of February.
Thank you.
And so unless anyone has any further questions, that wraps it up for general discussion.
I have no other questions.
None here.
None here.
All right. Well, our next regularly scheduled meeting will be the 4th Wednesday in April, which is the 24th.
Sounds good. I would like to say again, thanks, many thanks to Jessica for her efforts and work, and wish her nothing but the best.
Same here.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
She will be sorely missed.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that.
We'll adjourn there with our leave button. So thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.